My name is Katherine Navarro, 32 years old. The text came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quarterly reports for my real estate investment company, Sunset Properties, LLC. Katherine, we've made our decision. Moving to Florida next month. Found the perfect condo in Miami Beach. Finally, away from your drama. Don't try to contact us. Dad. Attached were photos of a stunning oceanfront condo with floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, and a wraparound balcony overlooking Biscayne Bay. I recognized it instantly. Unit 22847 at Azure Bay Towers. 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,400 square feet of luxury living space. I should know. I owned it. I stared at the pictures longer than I should have, feeling the familiar ache between my ribs. For 2 years, my parents had been threatening to move away. Each family gathering ended the same. We're tired of Catherine's attitude. She thinks she's too good for us. Maybe we should just start fresh somewhere else. The drama they referred to was my refusal to enable my brother Carlos's gambling addiction and my insistence on setting boundaries with relatives who treated me like their personal ATM. Apparently, saying no made me the problem child. I took a sip of my coffee and opened my property portfolio spreadsheet. My parents thought they were running from me. They had no idea they'd just moved into my building. The condo they'd chosen was worth about $850,000 with HOA fees of $200 monthly. They were renting it for $4,500, a premium price for a premium location. I scrolled through the signed lease. Miguel and Carmen Garcia, my parents, had moved in 3 weeks ago, paying first month, last month, and a security deposit totaling $13,500. The lease included a clause allowing termination with 30 days' notice for any violation of building policies or at the owner's discretion. My discretion. I leaned back in my chair, the Atlanta skyline glimmering outside my office window. 8 years ago, I'd started with a small duplex and a dream. Today, Sunset Properties held over $40 million in assets across Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Yet to my family, I was still Katherine who works in real estate. I picked up my phone and called Coastal Management Group, the firm that handled Azure Bay Towers. Good morning, this is Jennifer at Coastal Management. Hi, Jennifer, this is Katherine Navarro. I need to discuss Unit 2847. Oh, yes, the Garcias. Lovely couple. Just moved in last week. Very excited about the ocean views. I'm sure they are, I said softly. Unfortunately, I need to terminate their lease. There was a pause on the line. Terminate? May I ask why? Personal reasons. Please provide them with 30 days' notice as outlined in Section 12 of the agreement. Ms. Navarro, they just paid their deposit and first month. Are you certain about this? I'm certain. Handle it professionally. I want them out within 30 days. Yes, ma'am. I'll prepare the notice and deliver it today. Thank you. And if they have questions, tell them the owner prefers to remain anonymous. When I hung up, I stared at the phone for a long moment. This wasn't revenge. It was clarity. My parents wanted space. I was giving it to them, formally, contractually. 37 minutes later, my phone rang. Dad. Katherine, we need to talk, he said, voice tight with anger. Hello, Dad. How's the move going? Something's wrong. Our landlord is trying to evict us. Evict you? That seems extreme. You just moved in. That's what I said. We paid everything up front. We haven't broken any rules. They said it's at the owner's discretion. What does that even mean? I feigned confusion. That's strange. What's the name of the management company? Coastal Management Group. I could almost see his hands shaking. Katherine, we spent our savings on this move. The deposit, the moving truck, new furniture. If we get kicked out, we're ruined. That does sound stressful, I murmured. He sighed. I know we've had our differences, but you work in real estate. Do you know anyone who might help us? The irony made my throat tighten. I might. What's the address? Azure Bay Towers, Unit 2847. It's right on the water. Beautiful place. That name does sound familiar, I said, hiding a bitter smile. Katherine, please, we need help. Can you make some calls? Let me look into it and get back to you. Thank you, mija. I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but family is family. Family is family, I repeated quietly. Funny how that line only surfaced when they needed something. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen. How many times had that same conversation played out in reverse? Me asking for respect or boundaries. Them dismissing me as overdramatic. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. Katherine, thank God you called. Did your father tell you? They're throwing us out. He mentioned something about a lease issue. It's a nightmare. They said the decision came from the owner. No explanation. The owner must have their reasons. But we don't know what they are. We moved here to start fresh, and now... Start fresh from what? I asked quietly. A pause. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Catherine, don't make this about our family issues. We need help right now. Our family issues, I echoed. Is that what you call moving to Florida to get away from my drama? We didn't mean it that way. How did you mean it? We just needed space to figure things out. Her voice cracked. And now we need our daughter's help. I let that sink in. I'll see what I can find out about the owner, I said. Thank you, Catherine. You're the only one who might fix this. After hanging up, I sat in silence. Outside, the city was humming, oblivious to the irony unfolding in my inbox. My parents had spent years labeling me the source of their chaos, and now their survival hinged on me. They were learning what distance really meant. Later that evening, I called Jennifer again. How did the Garcias take the notice? Not well, she admitted. They're confused and upset. They keep asking to speak with the owner. And you told them? That the owner prefers to remain anonymous. Perfect. Ms. Navarro, she hesitated. They seem like good tenants, quiet, responsible. May I ask why you're doing this? I exhaled slowly. Let's just say it's personal. Understood. Will you be looking for new tenants? Not immediately, I said. I may have other plans for the unit. When I hung up, I looked out the window again, Atlanta's skyline glowing gold and blue in the distance. My parents thought they'd escaped their daughter's drama. They had no idea they were living inside it. The next morning, I woke early to the slow pulse of the city coming alive, the kind of hour where choices sound louder than they look. I brewed coffee, opened in the Azure Bay Management portal, and stared at Unit 2847 like it might blink first. The contract language I'd approved months ago read as clean as a marble counter. Owner discretion, 30 days, no cause required. Power in plain font. I called Jennifer before the sun cleared the edge of my window. Good morning, Ms. Navarro, she answered, voice hushed, like she was already bracing for impact. Morning, Jennifer. I want to offer the Garcias an alternative to the termination, I said. They can stay, but the terms change. I'm listening. Rent moves to market rate, $6,200 a month to month, not annual. Add behavioral clauses. They agree to respect property management decisions, no hostile communication, no triangulating with neighbors, no attempts to bypass management to the owner. Make it professional, not punitive. Understood, she said, typing. How firm are these terms? Non-negotiable. Give them 48 hours to decide. If they decline, the 30-day notice stands. A breath on her end, then. I'll call them this morning. I ended the call and sat there, palms flat to the desk, feeling the small quake of adrenaline that always came when I'd drawn a line and knew I would hold it. Behind the nerves, there was a quieter feeling, something like grief. It was easier to be the owner than the daughter. Paper didn't talk back. Paper didn't bring up old birthdays, or the time I said no at Thanksgiving and everybody treated my no like a bomb. By noon, my phone lit up again. Mom. I let it ring twice, then answered. Catherine, she exhaled, already crying. They said we can stay, but the rent. How can anyone afford that? And month to month? We just got here. We bought towels, curtains. We finally unpacked. That's called living in a luxury oceanfront condo, I said gently. Market rent is market rent. We can't do $6,200, she said, voice wobbling. Where would that extra money come from? I don't know, Mom. From a job, from a budget, from downsizing, from not pretending the ocean view is a financial plan. Don't be cruel, she snapped, then bit it back. We're desperate. The old script tried to take the stage. My cue to fix it, pay it, smooth it. I didn't step into it. You moved to Florida without a concrete income plan, I said, calm as ledger lines. That was a choice. Your father has savings, she said, defensive, thin. My catering contacts, there are opportunities here. There are also bills here, I said, and responsibilities follow you no matter the zip code. A pause, swallowing. Can you help? She whispered. Just a little each month until we're stable. There it was, the shape of the request that had torn our family into teams for years. I pictured Carlos at a kitchen table in Atlanta, avoiding eye contact with his own bills. He hadn't texted me once. The silence felt strategic. Mom, I said, we can talk about relationships, but I will not sponsor Florida as a fantasy. We didn't come here for fantasy, she protested. We came for peace. Peace doesn't come with a balcony, I said. It comes with boundaries. She went very quiet at that. We have 48 hours? She asked finally. Yes. After we hung up, I walked to the window. Cars threaded along the connector like beads on a nerve. I remembered a night 2 years ago when I'd almost told them about my first 8-figure acquisition. We were at a birthday dinner for my father at a restaurant with white tablecloths and waiters who polished flatware between courses. I'd started to say, "I closed," and my mother had interrupted to ask if I could float Carlos 10 grand just to reset him. I ate my steak and learned the same lesson contracts had taught me: terms before sentiment. Dad called later. His voice was lower than before, more careful. "Jenny from Coastal called," he said. "Said we can stay if we pay the higher rent. Said there are behavioral clauses." "Standard," I said. "It helps protect the building." "I've worked construction," he said, a little pride sneaking in despite himself. "I know buildings. Rules make sense. But the money, 6.2, that's a big lift for us right now." "Then you adjust," I said, "or you move." "We gave up our place in Atlanta," he reminded me. "We sold furniture. We told everyone we were starting over." His voice thinned. "We can't crawl back." "You can walk back," I said, with a plan. I heard him cover the receiver and murmur to Mom. Shoes scuffed across tile. The sound of a sliding door. The ocean leaning into the room. That view came in on every call now, like a third participant. "Katherine," he said, "we know things have been tense. And I said some things I shouldn't have said. Your mother, too." I waited. "But throwing us to the sharks like this?" "Nobody's throwing you anywhere," I said, measured. "You have a choice. Stay and pay market rate with clear boundaries, or relocate to something you can afford. If you need a list of smaller units, Jennifer can send options. Or you can come back to Atlanta, regroup, and rebuild." He was quiet a long time. "And if we stay," he said, "you'd help?" "If you stay," I said, "you follow the lease, and you stop treating me like a problem you need to escape until you need a solution." He flinched in the pause. I could feel it. "Your brother," he started, then stopped. "He's been good this week. Trying. He says the eviction is personal." "Is it?" I asked. "Is it?" he shot back, suddenly tired. "Do you know something I don't, Katherine?" The truth fluttered like a trapped bird against my ribs. I held it between finger and thumb, felt its frantic heartbeat. "I know that choices have consequences," I said, "and that includes the choice to call your daughter dramatic and then ask for her contacts when the water gets rough." He sighed. "Family is family." "Only when it pays?" I said, too softly to take back. 48 hours, Dad." We ended there, the line gone dead like a door gently shut. For the first time since the text arrived, I allowed myself to consider the reveal, saying it out loud. I am Sunset Properties. It was a clean solution on paper and a messy one in the heart. I didn't want them to stay because I'd caved. I wanted them to stay because they'd changed. How would I know the difference if I made it easy? I remembered therapy terms I'd paid good money to learn. Enmeshment, differentiation, codependency. I'd once told my therapist I ran a company because numbers didn't cry. She'd smiled sadly and said, "Numbers cry when people write them." That evening, the family chorus assembled. My aunt texted a prayer hands emoji and a link to a church group. My cousin asked if I knew anyone who could waive fees. A neighbor in Miami had somehow gotten my number and wrote that my parents were sweet, quiet, and surely there was a misunderstanding. Carlos finally texted at 10:14 p.m. "Heard about the condo. Messed up. You got pull in FL. Might be time to come through." No question mark, just pressure. I put my phone face down and turned off every light in the apartment except one over the sink. The hush felt like a decision. It wasn't that I wanted them to suffer. I wanted them to stop making my no the villain of their story. The ocean didn't care what I wanted. It would keep hitting the shore in Miami whether my parents paid market rent or not. The next morning, Jennifer called with an update. "They're asking if there's any flexibility," she said carefully. "On price. On the month-to-month. On the deadline." "There isn't," I said, "but add something fair. If they accept the new terms and remain in good standing for 6 months, we consider a modest concession, say a one-time $500 credit toward a future maintenance fee. Put it in writing as a discretionary owner credit, contingent on on-time payment." "Noted. That's humane," she said, almost relieved. "It's business," I said, though I felt the word like a bandage. "Tell them the offer expires at 5 p.m. tomorrow." 48 hours from issuance, yes. "And Jennifer," I added, "if they ask about the owner, you keep the boundary, everything through your office." "Of course." After the call, I drafted an email to myself with a subject line: "What happens if they say no?" I listed steps: process termination, authorize showings, convert unit to corporate extended stay for out-of-state executives, consider a furnished package with a 60-day minimum. I added a final line, call mom if they choose to leave. Say I love you. Don't apologize for the terms. At midday, Mom called again. No crying this time. Her voice had the careful control of a person walking across a narrow bridge. We talked, she said. Your father's looking at a property management position part-time. They pay hourly, but they said someone with construction experience could make it grow. I have 3 catering calls next week. That sounds like a plan, I said. But 6,200, she whispered, as if the number might hear her doubt and grow. Could you talk to the owner? Ask for mercy? The bird beat harder. I could let it out. I could end this with a sentence. The words lined up neatly. I am the owner. I am the mercy. I am the boundary you called drama. Instead, I said, mercy isn't a budget. Katherine, she breathed, can you forgive us? I can, I said, but forgiveness isn't a coupon. Silence bloomed. What do we have then? She asked finally. 2 days, I said. 48 hours from the offer. Decide, sign, or prepare to move. If you choose to leave, I'll make sure you have a list of safe, cheaper places. If you choose to stay, you follow the terms and you treat me like a landlord as well as a daughter. Her inhale stuttered. You sound like a stranger. I sound like someone you said you needed to get away from, I replied softly. This is what away feels like. On my desk, the lease template waited, each blank a boundary waiting to be honored. I looked at the time, 42 hours and change. I told myself I could hold the line. I told myself this is what love looked like when it learned to stand up. The ocean kept moving, even over the phone. The clock did too. The 48 hours came and went without a word. I tried not to check the phone, but silence has a texture. It hums behind your ribs. On the 3rd morning, Jennifer finally called. They accepted, she said. They signed the revised lease last night at 8:30. First month's new rate cleared this morning. I exhaled slowly. Thank you, Jennifer. There's something else, she added. Mr. Garcia asked if we had any short-term maintenance openings. I told him we might. He wants to apply. That one caught me off guard. He does? Yes, ma'am. Said he used to work construction in Atlanta. Said he wants to earn his stay. I looked out the window at the city still waking up. Let's bring him on, I said finally. Start him part-time, trial period, standard rate. Understood. I'll process the paperwork. After the call, I sat there for a long time, feeling the strange quiet of victory that didn't taste like gloating, only release. I'd expected resentment, more blame, maybe another explosion of guilt. But they'd chosen to stay, to work, to stand. Maybe that was the beginning of something. 3 weeks later, Dad called again, his voice rough with fatigue but steadier. I'm in coveralls again, he said. Didn't think I'd ever miss the smell of paint thinner, but it feels good. The company's decent. The manager says I have a knack for detail. I'm proud of you, I said, meaning it. Your mother's got 3 catering orders for next week. Some condo residents want her to handle their pool parties. She's been up since dawn making test platters. That's good news, I said. Sounds like you're building something new. We're trying, he said, then paused. Katherine, thank you for letting us stay. I smiled faintly. I didn't let you. You earned it. He gave a short laugh, half guilt, half gratitude. Guess that's fair. After that, the calls got easier, shorter, lighter. No lectures, no manipulation, no invisible invoices disguised as affection. Just updates about work and weather, a photo of the ocean at sunset, my mother's new menu ideas. She even texted once. We're learning to stand on our own. Feels good. 6 months passed. Azure Bay Towers glowed against the shoreline like a polished secret. My accounting dashboard showed consistent payments. On time, full amount. A note from Jennifer. Garcia's improving morale on site. Mr. Garcia promoted to property supervisor, part-time to full. Mrs. Garcia's catering licensed vendor for building events. I scrolled through the photos she'd attached. Dad wearing a safety vest, smiling in front of a maintenance van. Mom arranging trays of empanadas by the pool. The balcony light behind them reflected in the glass. Same as the one they'd posed under when they'd bragged about finally escaping my drama. Now it looked different, warmer, earned. That evening, Dad called again. Just checking in, he said. Everything good up in Atlanta? Busy as ever, I said. We're closing on 2 new properties in Tampa. Funny enough, one's another waterfront complex. You can always use a good maintenance guy, he joked. I've got references. I laughed softly. I'll keep that in mind. He hesitated. Katherine, I've been meaning to say something. Go on. I'm proud of you. I didn't understand what you were building. I thought real estate meant listings, open houses. I didn't realize you were running an empire. Not an empire, I said, just a business. It's more than that, he said quietly. It's proof. You worked harder than all of us put together, and instead of rubbing it in, you taught us something we should have known already. Respect doesn't come with a last name. It comes with effort. I swallowed hard. That means a lot, Dad. He laughed softly. I wish I'd said it sooner. You're saying it now. That's enough. He exhaled. You know, when your mother and I first came down here, we thought leaving Atlanta meant leaving the noise. But it turns out we were the noise. We had to quiet down to hear what mattered. Sometimes space helps, I said. Yeah, he said. And sometimes it costs $6,200 a month. I laughed, and so did he. For once, it wasn't bitter. By the way, he added, voice playful now, how long have you owned this building? I hesitated a beat, then told him the truth. 6 months before you moved in. There was a low whistle on the line. So when we told you we were running away from your drama, we were really just moving into your property. Looks that way. He chuckled. We're slow learners, but we get there. You are getting there, I said. That's what matters. When the call ended, I sat in the dark for a while, the city humming below. The lesson had worked both ways. They'd learned that independence feels better than entitlement, and I'd learned that drawing boundaries doesn't mean building walls. It means building doors with locks that open from both sides. A few days later, a rent transfer notification blinked on my phone. Payment received, $6,200. Note attached. Thank you for believing we could do better. Signed, Mom and Dad. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Carlos called next. His voice was sober, almost new. I'm in a program, he said. 3 weeks. I needed to do it. I'm glad, I said quietly. Mom said you gave them tough love. Guess it worked. It wasn't about punishment, I said. It was about clarity. I get that now, he said. I'm sorry for making you the villain back then. You were scared, I said. We all were. Still, he said, you turned out to be the only one with a plan. I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. Just stick to yours, Carlos. I will, he said. Hey, maybe someday I can rent from you too. Let's start with staying clean, I said gently. He laughed, embarrassed, but lighter. After we hung up, I scrolled through the Azure Bay listings again. Unit 22847 showed a perfect record. The tenant remarks section had one entry from Jennifer. Garcia family, reliable, respectful, communicative. That word, respectful, hit harder than any profit line ever could. A few months later, I flew to Miami for quarterly inspections. The air was salt and sunlight, the kind that makes every shadow honest. When I reached Unit 2847, Dad opened the door in paint-spattered jeans. Mom was behind him, apron dusted with flour, the smell of cinnamon drifting from the kitchen. Look who finally visits her tenants, she teased. I smiled. Inspections are mandatory. She laughed and hugged me anyway. Dad gestured toward the balcony. Come see the view. Still pays for itself. The ocean stretched wide and calm, sunlight sliding across the water. It looked like the same horizon they'd run to, but it wasn't. Something in them had changed. Something in me, too. Mom handed me a small envelope. Inside was a check, exactly $500. Advance on next month, she said. So we're never late. You don't have to. We want to, she said. Boundaries, remember? I nodded, throat tight. I remember. For a while, we just stood there, the wind tugging at the curtains. Dad rested his arm on the railing and said, You know, when we moved here, we thought we were escaping you. Turns out we were moving into your boundaries. I laughed softly. Best address I ever rented out. We watched the water shimmer, and for the first time in years, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was whole. Azure Bay Towers would always be profitable, but what it really yielded wasn't rent. It was respect. And sometimes that's the only equity that matters.